Yeah, if anyone else wants to go next, by all means, want to introduce yourself to everyone on the panel here.
Okay, I'm Monroe Sapple in science.
My name is John Morris. I'm in the adult education group.
Hi, my name is Jacqueline Martinez. I teach anatomy and physiology.
Hi everyone, Justina Coates. I teach accounting.
Hi all, Dave Coulter. I'm in the horticulture department.
Hi everyone, I'm Calvin Washington in the business department.
Rita Anderson, adult education.
Ansama Anthony, maths department.
Hi everyone, Angela Staunton with the Education Department, and I'm also a CTE coordinator along with Gretchen Reyes. She should be showing up. Just wanted to say again to Chris and Mo, thank you so much for taking the time to prepare for today and present. We're looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you.
And I'm Christopher May. I'm an auto department instructor and ASEP coordinator. So I'm just pulling up. Let's see here. Here we go. Okay. So I think you guys could all see this, right?
I can see you.
Yeah, we see you, buddy.
Okay. Give me 1 second here. All right. Interactive engagement, share.
I uploaded the, there you
go. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So anyway, yeah, Mo and myself, well, really came up with this. We kind of chose what, with the whole COVID thing going on, definitely we have to change our teaching strategies. And actually, it's not so bad. I'm not sure the students would agree, but as far as on our side of it, we seem to be getting through it. I definitely think the students rather be in person all the time, but we are definitely getting through it. Some of the objectives for today that we're going to talk about, Mo and myself, we're going to talk about lab time and how we make the most of it. Student rapport. I know a lot of instructors or professors who don't like to get into and I'm not necessarily in a relationship, but I think it's good to know your students. I think it's good, at least in our curriculum, what we teach, to have our students realize that we are people. We're not so much far above them that they can't ask us a question that doesn't make sense to them. And then that kind of goes in with creating that environment, right? We want a safe environment so that these students, they come to school and they feel comfortable, not like someone's going to pick on them because they got something wrong or they had a stupid question, what they think is stupid. We want a safe environment where the students feel comfortable with their peers and with us. And then engagement strategies. That's kind of where the issue is, myself included, trying to get these students, especially when we're online, trying to keep them involved. It's a daily chore, but I think Mo came up with a nice list here that's going to help a lot of people, myself included. And then the benefits of what we're going to talk about. Some of our benefits are like cohorts and the rapport. I think the students definitely get a benefit out of we'll try to give them on a daily basis. We're not just trying to blow them out and check task box, what we call it. We're actually trying to teach them and help them whenever we can. So anyone have any questions yet? Okay. So lab time, right? At least for us in automotive, lab time is like it's like our weight in gold. It's so important to us, and even furthermore, it's important to the students. They really get the hands-on. Of course, we have students who are not they're not necessarily here because they want to, get a degree in English or math. Of course, they still have to do it, but they're really here because they like working on cars. That's their passion. They love cars. The students that we have, especially in Honda and General Motors, we're lucky because we get those students who their passion truly is cars. So for them and getting them in lab, it's very important. It's important also to not run out of material in lab. If you guys ever used to listen to any AM radio, there was once in a while where there'd be that dead air. Nobody likes dead air, right? Especially on a radio. Same thing for labs. So it takes a lot of work, but we try to plan ahead so that if we do have students who work faster than others, and that does happen, it really happens every day, that we have something for them to do that'll challenge them a little bit more than the students who are still finishing up the regular curriculum. That's kind of like differentiating lab tasks for different skill levels. When I started with ASEP last year, I had students who were at ready for 3 years. They just decided to come to ASEP between them and their boss and get the degree and learn a lot about cars. And then I had students who basically came out of high school and have rarely even picked up a wrench. So imagine those two students in the same classroom. Obviously, the 3-year dealership person is going to be bored with a lot of the stuff I'm talking about, but I have to do it because I have students who don't know what I'm talking about, and eventually it's gonna level out when we get to that point where all the material's out there almost, and everyone should be on the same playing field. There are always students who excel. There's really nothing. There's always going to be that, I would say. And then like front loading labs, I think I talked about just a little bit. We want to get these labs ready the day before at least. I sometimes, and I'm not joking, I wish we could be open on Sundays because having COVID on Sundays, I don't go to church anymore. There's sometimes where I'm just sitting around for a couple hours, and I wish I could go into Triton and get ready for Monday's class, but I can't. That being said, we still try to front load these labs. I'm gonna give it over to Mo here. Right. Okay, you can click it. Okay.
Thanks, Chris. And I personally feel if you're going to get engaged students, have an interactive classroom, it really starts with student rapport, right? I spend a good part of my time really concentrating on creating the soft skills of the students, conveying the professionalism they're going to carry out in their field, and building that rapport. Both Chris and I teach cohorts, and I really believe in cohorts. You build a relationship with that student gets buy-in with you. My background came from teaching at a high school level, so I was fortunate enough to have a student throughout an entire school year and see a student multiple years. So when I came here, I was really pleasantly surprised that I was able to do a cohort. There's something about having a student and building that bond with them that really gets them through the class. I try to engage my students as much as I can into the field and discipline. So a little bit what works for me in my program is I start every class with small talk. And I really believe that small talk is everything, right? I'll ask them how their weekends were, what their time is like. I talk about current events every day. So I talk about automotive current events to get students interested in the field. After a while, they'll start following current events in your field. So whatever discipline or pedagogy you teach, you might want to try it, talking about what's going on in your field. So when they come to class, they're interested in it. They can ask questions about it. This leads to discussion. It's worked really well for me. But now it's expected. Sometimes I have a lot to cover and I kind of skip over current events and I get right to the meat and potatoes. And they're like, hey, what happened to current events? And they want to know what's going on in the news or what's going on with this car company or what lawmakers talking about environmental laws about electric cars or anything that's going on. So I really feel if you can build that rapport with the student, you can get that student engaged in your classroom, and that's really a big thing for me that I teach. Along with that, it's about creating the environment, right? So in my class, when I teach my lab, I tell my students I expect them to fail, right? There's going to be a lot of critical thinking. It's going to be difficult, and failure is an expectation, right? If you can get this correct on your first attempt, that's a rarity. And I really feel that if I do that and set the table for that, it really helps the student eliminate that fear, right? Because what we're asking them to do is take a leap of faith, right? They're putting themselves out there. They're scared to make the wrong decision. A lot of this is new material. So you really have to have empathy for the students, right? You kind of got to put yourselves in their shoes and see what it's like for them to actually take these risks, because that's what you're really asking them to do, right? They're doing it in front of their peers. They're doing it in front of their professor that they're intimidated of. So it's kind of out there. A lot of times I'll talk about my struggles more than my triumphs, and I think that helps diffuse things. I often talk about when it was really it was a hard diagnosis, or I had a difficult vehicle to repair, or the vehicle came back because it wasn't fixed properly, right? I will rarely ever share my triumphs and always my failures. And I feel that helps build confidence as the student, because they are going to fail. And I tell my students that is one of the best ways to learn is to fail, because you'll know what not to do, right? Like definition of an expert is know every way that something can fail. And I truly believe that. You have to have that experience, right? And then you just have to keep it interesting for the student, right? I really feel if you can build that rapport and create a safe, good environment to teach in, you're going to get engaged students. If not, they're going to be timid, and they're really going to stay back.
Thanks, Mo. Talking about engaging with the students, Mr. Davis told me when I started a little over a year ago that these students are going to come to you with all kinds of problems, not just the school problems. They're going to come to you about losing their license, or problems at home, or problems with their girlfriends, or and I kind of didn't believe it. Not that I didn't believe him, but I just couldn't believe that students would open up to us that way. And it's kind of a nice relationship. When I'm at home and I tell my wife about the kids, she thinks I'm talking about my kids, but I'm actually talking about the students. And now I have to call them students so I don't get us confused at home. But anyway, it kind of feels like that. We kind of really take them under our wing, and we show them what we know. I mean, that was on my resume when I started. Was I have all this knowledge and 27 years of working on cars, and I'd like to give it to somebody. Unfortunately, my kids are not into cars, at least yet, but this is the perfect job for me. Speaking of pre-COVID, though, let's talk about what it used to be like. So me not being an instructor, really, I'm a technician who is instructing now, and I just told that to Mo today. I still feel that way, and sometimes that's good for the students, because I am just like them. I'm really a tech, and so is Mo and Mr. Davis, and I think it's good to start there, as opposed to starting out as a teacher and moving into a career of automobiles. But anyway, what I want to talk about was station rotation, and this is something that I've been doing since the early 90s with General Motors. It's just been a thing. And then when I was able to teach, I tried to use the same exact form that they used in the manufacturer programs, General Motors training. And basically, it's like setting up 5 or 6, depending how many students you have. We could set up a whole day. We could do 10 or 12 rotations where each one is about a half hour, 40 minutes. And we have a group of 2 students usually, and we just kind of we go down the line and we do this station, and they get what they get out of it, and we take notes and kind of the things like that. We'll do quizzes. We'll actually test them on this stuff, which is really good for assessment, right? We can actually show them how to do something and then test them later to see if they really got it or not. And then we basically move, right? Every hour or so, we move stations, and this way, everyone is working at the same time on different things. And then later, we'll talk about it after class, and you can see the different amount of information that each student got. Not everybody gets the same thing. They get it on different levels. They get different. They get different points of the same exact thing. So it's really nice to see that. As far as random groups, if we don't do this, the kids will make their own groups. See, there we go again, the kids. The students will make their own groups, and it'll pretty much stay like that for 2 years. So every once in a while, I like to break them up, because if you get those groups that they choose, you might have that kid who's always in the back seat, kind of just watching what's going on instead of actually getting in there. So sometimes you get him in a group with someone who's less experienced, and he can take over, and then it gives him encouragement to keep going. As far as case studies, I'm sure Mo can tell you, we have, oh my gosh, hundreds, if not more, of these stories that are real life stories. When I tell students, I give them a scenario of a case study, and they're like, "How do you know?" I'm like, "That was me. That happened to me." And they're like, "No way." I'm like, "Yes, it happens to us, guys, and it doesn't stop happening. As the cars get newer and they keep changing, we have to change with them. And every once in a while, we get burned. That's what I like to call it. We get burned, whereas we eventually do fix it, but it took us for a roller coaster ride." So the students really like to hear those stories, because they get to realize we are human. I do make mistakes. Mr. Habeeb makes mistakes, but we fix them and we move on. We learn from that mistake, and the next time it comes around, we'll know what to do. That's part of this career, I believe. Sharing data analysis. This is what I talked about just a little bit earlier. So we're talking about students in their stations getting their information, and then at the end of class, I kind of share. I have them come up and tell us what they got, what their data was on their stations, their tasks, and they'll see the difference between the cars. Maybe we have a 4-cylinder here and a 6-cylinder here, and frequency in hertz for a MAF sensor, how it relates from a V6 to a 4-cylinder. This is things they learn that's not necessarily in a book, but you have to see it, and we have to tell you about it. And these always lead to very good discussions, which, I don't mind for 10 minutes at the end of class sitting around and talking about what we did. It really, it's kind of like sitting around after dinner and talking. It's the same thing. People are throwing things in and out, their ideas, and it's really nice. So I guess that whole student relationship thing, I think it comes to play as a definite benefit for the whole class. So I think that's what I have about that kind of stuff. Let me just move this up here. All right. Mo, I don't think your mic's on.
Sorry about that. Thank you. Good call. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, no, I'm with you on the reflection afterwards. Right? I think reflection in education is a really big piece. Then ending a class with reflecting what you learned was excellent. So yeah, so right now, even post-COVID, I'm doing concept mapping on the board. So to engage our students, I'll start a concept map and they can build on it when they work more with the system. And we can do that with a whiteboard and a marker. Role playing works really well. It's kind of jovial, kind of fun. I just did this last week, right? We're in my electrical class. We're talking about gateway communication and how modules can talk to one another. And I was explaining how if one system goes down, you can still get around things. So I had a simple example of, okay, you guys are going somewhere, you're going to a party, and all the drinks and snacks are in the trunk of the car. Okay, and now the module won't communicate to it. How do we get this trunk open, right? And so it makes it light, it makes it simple. You can do different scenarios too. You can take things away from a situation. I think that's always fun to do, keep your students going and engaged. And I don't mind doing prizes either, right? And I'm not talking about candy bars and bribery, right? Because that always works. But I'm talking about just simple things, right? You can move on to the next task. You guys can go to break early, right? So I feel if there's an incentive for your students, usually they want to work to achieve that incentive, no matter what it is, no matter how small it is. And then another thing that I have to have a lot of patience with is I kind of unlock my students, right? So what we teach in our program is a very practical course. It's automotive. And at the end of the day, they have to be able to make the repair. They have to be able to diagnose, look at the vehicle, and make the repair. And in the real world, it won't be as structured as school. So I kind of take the handcuffs off the students, and I make sure that my tasks and my lessons are ungoogleable. What I mean is, if you ask any one of our students to figure out what's wrong, the first thing they're going to do is pull out their phone and try to look it up. And that's just human nature nowadays. They try to hit the search engine. They try to go to YouTube. They try to figure it out, right? I let that happen by all means, right? Because in the real world, you're going to try to repair that vehicle by any means necessary. So I let them go down the wrong path, right? And this is where I have to be patient as an instructor, because it'll lead them to the correct path, right? And that's the method to the madness. So to get them engaged, I kind of let them run wild with their imagination of how to solve the problem, right? I don't confine them to a very structured way to do it. Oftentimes when I'm in a lab, so that kind of gets them motivated to figure it out. That kind of works for me actually. Along with that, a lot of times we'll do a teach the teacher. So to prove competency in a lab, we'll have the student actually teach the lesson back to me, and I feel that really one, elevates their amount of attention they're going to put into the project they're working on. And then two, that really defines if they know the topic or not. So a teach a teacher is a lot of ways that my students will actually get on to move on to the next part of the subject matter. And it works really well. I think Chris was talking about it in case studies, and case studies are just known examples of something that has failed. We have this vehicle that had this problem, and this is the result, and it's documented, right? So we have data to support it, and it's there. And then examples from your past, right? So that's where the storytelling aspect of us being instructors can really help a student being engaged in the program, right? I can talk about a topic for quite a while, but the second I go into a story, everyone's involved, right? I can see everyone pay attention. Everyone is there. We've all been at our fields for a while. That's why we're here. So I really feel that it's the storytelling that that really engages a lot of my students sometimes. And then critical thinking games. Like I said, I taught at I taught automotive at high school before I came here, and we played a lot of interactive games to keep our students involved. We played games like Quizlet, Live, and Kahoot, and different types of things to get our students in the classroom. They were okay at a basic level. I think the only one that I really loved doing was an escape room. So it was kind of fun. We took a combination lock, and this took a lot of prep work too. I mean, I think Chris alluded to this in the beginning slide, that you have to plan modules ahead. Well, a lot of this is actually a lot of pre-planning. But the escape room was fun. You had them basically solve 3 different things to get 3 different numbers to unlock a combination lock, and you kind of got to build it backwards. But there's a lot of escape rooms out there for teachers to use. So That has worked really well in the past. And a lot of this really comes into student buy-in, right? So the benefits of having an engaged classroom, interactive classroom, is the students are in there. You have buy-in. Two, this builds the student's confidence, right? The more the student is involved in the classroom, the better the confidence the student has, the more they're going to pursue it. And this really gets into a student be able to think critically, right? Because what we're trying to do is trying to figure out a way to get our students to be involved, to be engaged in the field, and think of that higher level. These aren't basic level questions, right? This isn't basic level labs that we're trying to put out here, right? And I always tell our students, right? I'm really not telling you answers here, right? We're teaching ways to find answers. And that's the biggest thing that we do in our labs, right? And the end result is if we can build off of this, we'll have students with better communication skills. We have students with better soft skills, right? And I think this is the missing part that gets lost in a lot of classes that I see that I've taken, is that we're not really developing a lot of soft skills in our programs, right? I think the word that I use more than anything in my program is professionalism, because I have told our students that nothing carries you further in this career than your soft skills and professionalism, right? It's how you carry yourself, how you treat your profession, how you work well, your work ethics, right? And at the end of the day, this really comes down to your students enjoying your class and having retention. So I'll let Chris finish this up here.
So there were a lot of good ideas there that that I think everyone can use in their own way. Even they can change it here and there, but these are really good ways to keep the students engaged. I guess we're lucky that we can have lab. I'm not sure everyone across the street. Actually, I'm pretty sure that no one is meeting face to face. So I guess you can use some of these engagements online also. They could be worked around to do that. Does anyone have any questions or comments or any of their own ideas that work for them?
Yeah, will do, Calvin. Yeah, if anyone else has any type of engagement strategy, I'd love to hear it, right? So I think it'd be great if you guys have something that works well for your class, even if it was pre-COVID, right? Any great ways to have students work together, share ideas, get engaged. I think it'd be great to bounce ideas off one another. Yeah, go ahead, Calvin.
I think it's a good idea. At the beginning of class, what I often do is I do kind of similar. I ask the students any business topics that they want to share, what they experience or would like the class to be aware of. And I always come into class with at least 5 or 6 business topics that happened that morning or yesterday, and try to show them. Because I tell the students is by the end of the semester, you can see how pretty much a large percentage of things that we do applies to a business. Like, for example, in yesterday's class, I talked about the Bears winning the game and how was that important because the leader, the coach, made a decision to go with the second string quarterback, and the rest is history. They're 3-0. And now if you're winning, that ties to what? More apparel, more people going to be involved, more people be associated when you're 3-0 compared to they lost, where they beat Atlanta, which was 0-3. So I try to every day, come up with those scenarios and ask the students to share information.
Fantastic, Calvin. Yeah, no, you're talking Bears, now you're talking religion, right? So that's that's fantastic. Go ahead, Monroe.
Yes, and I teach science, physiology, anatomy, physiology. So I have a student there in their breakout groups, and we discuss current. You mentioned current. What's going on now currently? Well, the big thing now is COVID-19, and I asked them, what do you think? How does this virus? Is it living? Or is it non-living? How does it get into the body? How does it get into the body? and what are some things that we learned from our class that you can apply to what's going on. And I mentioned to him that even the experts don't know. The experts are still trying to figure it out. Scientists are still trying to figure it out. And so we got a lively discussion. So they had the various breakout groups, and they come up with answers. And I said, there's no right or no wrong because they're still working on this. So we deal a lot with current events, and that's tended to help my class out very well. Because they really enjoy that, and they are on because of what's going on.
No, that's fantastic, right? Yeah, a big thing of mine is beginning of every class is just that quick small talk, current events.
Sure.
Make sure everyone's okay mentally, and then we'll start the class, right?
Sure, yeah.
That's great.
Talking about current events, sometimes, actually not sometimes, but I always start the class of like, what did you guys do over the weekend that we could share with the class? And then we used to do this at my dealership every morning was like a quick lineup. And it's if you were working on something that gave you a hard time, we would like to share it because I had like 32 texts where I worked. And someone is definitely going to come across it again. This goes the same for students, whether or not it's an issue with Blackboard or email. They even have their own little message board that they work with on their own that they came up with just so they're in contact with each other. So if something happens, someone will tell me in the class, so-and-so is going to be late because of this. And I think that's pretty nice too. As far as talking about cars, somebody did something over the weekend, myself included, and it's usually something we could learn that, like I said, is not always in a book. So I like to try to throw that out. It's almost like a tip of the Monday morning, what happened and how we can help each other become better techs. So,
is anyone doing anything digitally to engage your students in their classrooms? I know I mentioned a few games that I've played in the past, but I haven't really implemented much in my pedagogy here. Does anyone do anything digitally other than polls and breakout rooms and Blackboard? Yes, Nancy.
I actually did a Kahoot game just before logging in here, and it worked pretty good. So it was one of the live ones for the students.
Okay.
I was a little concerned about doing it online. I've done them in class before, but never online. But it actually went pretty well, so they enjoyed it.
Oh, nice. That's fantastic. Yeah, I feel they're good to throw in every once in a while. Like it shouldn't be a regular thing, but it's good to mix it up. That's great. All right. Well, looks like we're over by a little bit, but I appreciate everyone being here. If anyone has any questions or more comments, you can always email me or Chris or anyone who put this together. I appreciate it. All right.
Yeah, thank you too. This is Michael.
Yeah, no, thanks a lot for being here.